Well, first of all, I want to say welcome, and we're excited. What we're doing is we are actually filming this in the midst of our glow up, in the midst of in the midst of our installation, and Sumu, and we'll tag you with his professional credentials, but he has done a phenomenal job at converting the space that we do WOW from a year ago for, I think it was Resurrection Sunday. I walked in my office, and I'm so used to it because during the pandemic, we turned the office into a production suite, into a studio. And Minister Zay and others decided that we've been in my office for 3 years, that was long enough. And then we came down and we took this room and we began to broadcast from here. As we're in the midst of our installation around sound, our production suite and all of that, we have been able to convert this room into a whole nother studio space that is nothing like what we were doing. Now listen, to our credit, we had Band-Aids, paper clips, bubble gum, right? Yeah. We had old cameras. We ran through one that it was terrible. And so now we're in the midst of an upgrade and an installation that has been absolutely amazing. And this is coming up on our live. What I love about the conversation that we're about to have is the intersection of entrepreneurialism, ministry professionalism, and how it impacts ministry. And so with our tech people, with our vendor who has done a whole 360 on not only our production suite, but our studio suite here is amazing. So welcome, thank you.
Oh no,
and
thank you.
Tell us how does this entrepreneurial issue for a number of people that are in the church who are entrepreneurs and they're trying to figure out how to make all this work. They only see church sometimes as a church and not as a business, an organization, and a profession. Yeah. And if you look at the numbers in an aggregate sense, particularly the Black church has close to more than $500 million in revenue in terms of not just tithes and offerings. I'm talking about in real estate and a whole bunch of other things, right? So how do we become first of all comfortable with understanding the business side of ministry, and you being a pastor and a successful business operator,
yes,
a job creator,
yes,
right? How do we blend that so that people can be comfortable?
First of all, amazing to be in this space, and it's glorified space. And amazing to have this conversation for whoever it's going to impact. But I think one of the first things is recognizing that every gift of God is actually an opportunity and an invitation to stewardship. So I think we start right there. We start at the fact that everything that God gives, whether it's church, family, home, it is an invitation into another level of stewardship and responsibility. And that within itself is its own business.
Yeah.
There is the business of relationshiping. There is the business of covenant. All of these different elements are their own kind of currency. And it's necessary to abide by the principles within those currencies. And I think that within the church, what we do a good job of is showing up on Sunday. And Monday through Saturday is ignored, but Monday through Saturday makes Sunday work.
Absolutely.
And at whatever rate, whatever rhythm, and whatever quality you work your Monday through Saturday, you'll realize that your Sunday is going to evolve from there. And the other level is at some point we have to shift from Sunday only to not only are we preparing Monday through Saturday, but we're also producing Monday through Saturday. This room and other rooms like it are so that Bible study happens, so that discipleship content is produced, so that podcasts with godly language. I think we have enough podcasts of I feel, you feel, we feel.
Right. Yeah.
And we need somebody that's going to step in a room like this, and because the presentation is excellent, it's going to draw attention, but then they're going to realize he's saying something different. She's saying something different than I'm accustomed to. And this is speaking to my spirit. I can do something different with my life. if we don't bridge it all together,
Right.
if I'm saying the right things but I don't look right, they're not paying attention. But then if I look right and I'm not saying the right things, I'm feeding people the wrong thing.
Mm-hmm.
At some point, the two things have to come together.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just excited because we've been able to bring the look, the presentation, the excellence to someone who's saying the right thing.
Yeah.
And I think that you and this church, you're going to do a phenomenal job marrying excellence
Right.
and information.
Yeah.
And it's going to be special.
Yeah, that's what we call blue water. And matter of fact, in a couple of weeks, our CATA, our Kingdom Advantage Training Academy, is all around blue water. What is the ministry distinction? What is it that we create that allows or that invites people to drive past a ton of churches to come here?
Yes, sir.
And it's what we call blue water. It is you get something, you get a value that you can't, that is not duplicated any place else.
Yes, sir.
Or at least that's the way they feel.
Yes,
right?
sir.
And so I love what you talked about, how we marry that. If you look, this room we had a green screen, and we were doing our best.
Yes, sir.
And then it was like, oh, the sound, blah blah. So then we bought mats to
Yes, sir.
say to walk us through the iterations of this room.
I mean, we've had blankets to damper the sound. We had a green screen that was sitting over here. There were two different sizes because there were two different stands. We went from one switcher that didn't work to getting the ATEM to
The
us getting
switchers
mixer.
that didn't work when we needed them to work, right? While we're right in the middle
It's
of
not
Bible
always how
study.
that happens.
Oh man.
Yeah, so dealing with all of the tech stuff, and then you got Bishop that looks at you like,
What are we doing?
What are we doing? Now,
Yes.
you problem solve them, and as you talk about like entrepreneurship, this is like the church should also be a training ground for entrepreneurs, right?
1,000%.
Think about kids, right? They'll get to come in and now they get to learn a life skill to where even if, let's say, what they go to school for doesn't pan out, they still have this that they've cultivated over time.
Yeah.
Like I've developed and grown so much in my 5 years of being here in the pandemic. I was able to bring my creative gifting, come into a space, learn a system that now I go and help smaller ministries that are trying to upgrade, right? So it's like, you build the relationships, you help them grow, but I also know my limitations on, for me, I'm not necessarily technical, but I'm a creative. You can give me some stuff and we can create something beautiful. And then, it allows me to have the freedom if Bishop comes at the last minute and says, hey, I want this done. Yeah. If we can do it, we'll get it done. If not, be like, sorry, Bishop, we'll.
But now that we have the tools and the technology, we have the right tools, it makes things easier. I really want to underscore for you that are part of our Mind Your Business ministry, whether you are creative, an author, if you're a job creator, you're running your own business, part of what you two have described is what we are also going to branch out and do is bring our young people, our Jeremiah generation, in so that they can begin to learn and train and intern, because this is really this is present, but it is the future way
1,000%.
of how we're going to do business and how they're going in the crazy world, how they can create their own space. And so
How they remain godly
Yeah.
while doing it.
right.
How they know that they need to make a line item called, we were laughing about this earlier, miscellaneous. So that if something happens, I'm not saying, well, Pastor, I know I said 1,500,
Right.
but I need another 300. No, it's in that line item, and it's how you stay holding on to your integrity. It's how you keep your name good. And if we don't teach you, you'll never know.
Let's emphasize this whole issue of being in business and moving away from your hustle mentality.
Oh boy.
So when people have problems with
You wanna
churches,
have a conversation.
because people come to the church and they want to hustle you, right? So they don't have the expertise, they haven't gone through the training, they do not have the credentials, but because there are certain churches that just want to look good, right? It's what we talked about last night. So you're going to pay them, but I promise you it's going to be much more
Yep.
because you're going to get inferior product.
Yep.
You're not going to have warranties on your stuff.
Yep.
It's going to break down,
Yes,
and
sir.
then that vendor is going to be gone.
Yes.
And you can't even write a check to them. You can't
Yes.
give them a W-9. You can't do any business
Yes.
because they don't have an LLC.
Yep.
They don't have an employee
Nothing.
EIN. They've got nothing.
Yep.
So if you really want to do this work, you've got to be legitimate.
Do it right.
Because part of being holy
Yes, sir.
is being honest.
Yes, sir.
And you've got to move away from hustle. If it's always going to be a hustle, then it's not holy and it's not honest.
Not just in the hustling from the finessing standpoint, but not just hustling from finesse, but also hustling from being busy.
Yeah.
In addition to making sure that you're shaking hands cleanly, are you exhausted when you come on the project? I think that, and one of the things I've been dealing with is when God creates the world, he actually teaches us right from the beginning that we operate from rest. That rest is not a reward, that we don't finally rest when we're worn out.
Right.
But if we want the quality of what we do next to be any kind of good, that we should operate from a place of rest. That resting is where I operate from, not hustling.
Yeah.
And that I have an ability to, hey, I can do this, I cannot do this. I have an ability to be honest because I know, because I'm rested.
Right.
Because I'm not drained, I'm not exhausted. I'm not coming to you with 20% of who I am because, last week I had such and such and the week before I had such and such. No, there are no, whenever I shake a hand and whenever I put my signature on a paper, I am committing to this thing.
Right.
And there is a need for, in every way, financially, socially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, there's a need to ensure that I'm able to show up as my whole self to do what I said I was going to do.
Yeah.
And we don't give that the kind of energy that we used to. I used to be able to say, hey, I'm going to have this tomorrow. We spoke about this earlier. I'm going to have this tomorrow at 3 p.m. And you just knew I was going to have it at 3 p.m. And if I didn't, you knew that there was something gravely wrong and you were coming to my rescue because you knew either this man is going to have it or something is wrong.
Right.
How can we say that in 2025? We got to safeguard ourselves multiple ways.
Right.
Safeguard the money. Write it down here, write it down there. Let's get that notarized. There's so many ways we got to just make sure that we're covered because we don't have the energy to keep up with our commitments.
Yeah.
So resting, not just remaining from a place of not hustling you and finesse, but maybe I committed to something that I don't have the energy to do.
Yeah.
So I've also got to be rested from a state where I'm not hustling in my work.
That's right.
I'm not rushing through the job, missing cables and missing this and missing that. And I know I promised that was going to be there, but if you just hit right there, I have a loop around. No.
And it's not only just installs. So let's talk to the creatives. Let's talk to you that are graphic designers.
Yes.
And you want to work with churches. You need to understand that churches are on a very tight schedule. Yep. And so when you say that you're going to do something, and this gets back to me, this whole issue of holiness and honesty, right? And ethics and morality and your word, because your word is going to get you repeat business.
Yes, sir.
You're going, if customers can trust that you are honest to say, I can't do that, like you said, Zay, or I don't have the bandwidth, or I don't have the schedule for, they will respect you and come back to you.
1,000%.
Because at least you care enough to tell them the truth.
1,000%.
And so it's going to be, it's important. I love the whole context of rest, but I also want to share with you that understand your client's schedule.
Yeah.
Ask the right questions.
Yep.
Don't allow churches or other businesses to hustle you.
Yeah.
Don't chase, because all money ain't good money.
Yes, sir.
And so you have to be very clear about who you are.
Yes, sir.
And then gain the respect, the professional respect that you deserve. I have a model that I use here, that I model what I expect, so I can choose what I'll accept.
So good.
You see, when you're there,
so good,
and you're modeling, and like you said, consistency.
Yes, sir.
Then people can trust you. Your brand is durable. It's sustainable. People will say, "Oh yeah, they have a good name." When we hired Sumu, you came by 5 different separate recommendations. And the deal was, we had been, Zay, we've been moving around this thing for a year and a half, 2 years, and then finally you have to build trust. Yeah. And so you've delivered. You can see this room. You'll see a whole bunch of upgrades at Greater. You'll see our production studio. That production studio is the manifestation of we were in a pandemic for what? 4 years, 3 years. I was talking about a production studio 5 years before the pandemic hit, right? So it's an 8-year conversation.
Lord have mercy.
But see, what happens is you also have to respect the process.
Yeah.
You cannot get anywhere overnight.
Yeah.
And you have to be where your feet are planted.
Yeah. And
so these are like tremendous ways. I want to say to you that if you're in business, partnering with the church is a great opportunity.
Absolutely.
They have space. They've got equipment.
Yep.
And this is a wonderful opportunity to expand your professionalism. It's an incubator in and of itself.
It's the perfect place to practice.
It's the perfect place to practice, right? And really perfect your craft.
Yes. I hope practice to perfection, not just practice to make mistakes. But yes, sir, practice towards perfection. I know you've got something there. You've been mentoring here and training others and teaching them. And what would you say concerning that?
No, I agree 100%. Pastor has, even when I'm in different job sites or work with different people, and I go to ministries, and there are people that are more proficient in their profession. This is what they do professionally. Yeah. But when I come into their church space, what I set up for people with the minimal knowledge that I know can blow them out of the water, and they do it professionally. And all I hear every time I walk into spaces is ministry professionalism. Because of the 5 years, I've gotten the mentorship, and that was a part of the things that kind of drew me here. Was I get to develop in this space. I've done some things in the corporate space, but I've been here. Right, I had an excellent mentor that taught me to help me learn the technical stuff. Because again, as a creative, you can get but so far, but you've got to be able to have at least intelligent conversations. And then once you reach the end of your rope, you just say, "Hey, let me call someone that knows more than me."
Get somebody,
right? And as you were talking about with your commitment, if there's something that life happens. Yeah. You call the client and say, "Hey, like I had an incident with my mom and I had to call the client." I said, "I know I was going to get this done for you, but my mom had to deal with her hospital, all this stuff." And so he was like, "That's fine. I'll give you some more time." And I was able to get it completed to him, and they were happy with what they saw. Yeah. And so it's communication, right? Building that trust.
But on the front end. That gets back to the honesty piece.
Yes.
Because I'm a big proponent of keeping your word.
Yes.
Right? And so there are going to be moments, like you said, there are emergencies, life happens. Yep. And there are moments that you can't keep your word, but you can always be your word. Oh, wow. It's a big difference. Oh, wow. If you practice being your word, then keeping your word is going to be real clear. It gets back to your point, when you said 3:00, and if you're not there, because you're always being your word, yes, sir, then the client knows something's up.
It's something.
And they will give grace. So if you're an entrepreneur, and then I want to just say one last thing, then we'll close, but the piece that you talked about, being a creative, now building your portfolio, you never stop growing. Yeah. So I'm here asking questions. I don't know none of this stuff, but I'm drilling them like I'm a journalist. You know why? Because I want to learn. I don't want to ever be in a box that, this is, and people that's just a pastor. I'm sorry. I am a professional cleric. 1,000%. And it's in the background of running cities and managing community economic development projects, or taking $3 million and leveraging it into $186 million on the east side of Buffalo. I know this business. I don't know your business. Yeah. But one thing, if you're a good entrepreneur, principles are the same.
Yes, sir.
What are your business principles?
Yes, sir.
And it's real simple stuff, y'all. It is showing up on time. It is being your word. It is, like you said, communicating with your client. And once you can build value and trust, your business will grow. It'll grow organically.
1,000%.
And you won't have to chase people.
Yes, sir.
They will come after you.
I'm a witness.
Yeah. So this has been great. why don't you pan this new studio room? Because now we've taken one room, he's taken one room and made 3 sets out of it. And since you were talking about podcasts, a shameless plug, you need to go to Spotify and subscribe to my podcast.
Do it
faster. The Undercurrent. It is when you want to get away from the noise and dive deep into the authenticity of who you are. Would love to have you do that. Go to MatthewLBrown.org and sign up for my podcast.
This your world today. This your world.
Look, just have him
do what he said.
Oh yeah, there we go.
There you go.
You see what I'm talking about? And here's the other piece. This is for entrepreneurs. Always brand yourself. Because this is so easy. Be the brand. Can you explain this? I wanted to ask you about that.
So this is 2 S's. The name of my company is Sumo Studios. When I started 10 years ago, it was called Upward Now, and the idea was whoever I came into contact with, I wanted what they had to go up, and I wanted it to happen, obviously, now. So it was Upward Now. The vision and the idea, the goal has not changed. Immediate contact, let's go up. But I want to say about 4 years ago, God just really impressed in my spirit names, that is last names, that legacy comes with names. And so we end up changing to my last name, Sumo Studios. And the last 4 years has just been crazy. It's been crazy.
Tell everybody where your church is at.
We are in Riverdale, Georgia, Christ Disciple Mission Church, Atlanta. Can't wait for Sunday. But we're in Riverdale, literally right around the corner from Rick Ross's house. And we're very grateful. We actually acquired our facility January, and just like you said, using the same principles that God has given us for business. It's necessary, or you'll be having church in the driveway. And there's nothing wrong with having church in the driveway, but if that's how far your business acumen is, that's how far you'll go.
Yeah. Listen, May 24th, we have another edition of a Kingdom Advantage Training Academy. One of our sections is going to be on marketplace ministry. If you're a kingdompreneur, and I mean you're really saved, you ain't like playing church and trying to scam people.
Finesse.
But if you're really saved, you need to register to be a part of Kingdom Advantage Training Academy. It's what we do quarterly on how we literally pour into the lives of kingdompreneurs, leaders, so that in order for you to have a blue water business, you have to have a blue water life. So let's work on you, and the business will take care of itself. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. Thank you, Karoma Combs, the leader of Mind Your Business here at Greater Community.
Amazing.
For making this happen and empowering those that you influence. Stay in His face and journey well.